Hey everybody, it's Walt Blackman and Dave Marshall again. Thank you for coming back for another episode of the America First Brothers. But before we continue on, I want you to go down there and press that subscribe button down there in the bottom corner of your screen and subscribe to this channel. And also on Facebook, you can find us at the American First Brothers on Facebook. So make sure you subscribe. Now today we're going to be talking about something that's kind of touchy to a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
And it's the vaccination for the COVID-19. So want to put this out there so nobody gets any issues or gets wrapped around the axle. And I and David has said this too, that we are not anti-vaccination.
No, we're not.
We're not.
Not at all.
We are for we're from losing your liberties to vaccinations, and I really don't think that a person should be forced to do something, put something in their body if they don't want it in their body, or an experimental drug in their body and it hasn't been really tested. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I've been to some doctors, and some doctors say it's good, and other doctors say they don't know. I'm not claiming that. I am talking about the liberty of it. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, the freedoms that come behind that. Now, I want to go ahead.
Well, real quick, in a nutshell, and just to bring it down, and the reality is this: the choice of taking a vaccine should be a choice that an individual makes, and not forced by the government or a mandate by the government. You will take this vaccine. That is a decision between you and your God. That is
exactly.
But not your God. That is a decision between you and God.
Yeah.
Nobody else should force you to do this. And again, we're not against it. If you feel that you need to take it, take it. You shouldn't be judged for it. But it should be a personal decision and not a government entity telling you you will take it or else.
Now, I want to make this clear for some of those pro-choice people, because they'll get on the bandwagon and say, oh, the Republicans now or conservatives now are saying it's a pro-choice thing, it's my body. Listen, first of all, that's a whole different subject. And number two, we're talking about a body, a living human being inside of you that you want to kill. That's a big difference than the shot. And that person inside your stomach, if you happen to be a female contemplating abortion, is a person. But we are talking about individual liberties and freedoms that fall under the 14th Amendment, and that unborn child falls under the 14th Amendment.
Yes.
So I just want to make that clear. So what I want to do is I want to go in some history really quick. So the Biden administration has made it clear to let people know, let Americans know, that Black Americans are not getting the shot. And since they are not getting the shot, they are at a higher rate of contagious disease or catching this awful COVID. So this is what I just want to remind the Biden administration of why a lot of Black Americans aren't taking the shot. And it's something called the Tuskegee study.
Amen.
So if you don't know about the Tuskegee study, it was an experiment to inject syphilis into 400 Black American males.
Yes.
And then they injected a what do they call it? Placebo. And the other half. So 200 got the actual virus and 200 got the placebo. Now, then what they did is, correction. I am wrong. All 400 of them were injected with the syphilis, and then 200 of them received the vaccination, the placebo, and 200 of them did not. They received something that they said it was the vaccination, and those 200 that didn't receive that actually died because of syphilis, but the government was behind it. So when you think that Black folks, you say, well, Black people don't want to get the shot. Well, yeah. Come on, man. You gave 400 Black folks syphilis, and then you gave them half of them you gave them the cure, and the other half you let die, but you said you gave them the cure on it was an experimental deal. come on, man.
What's that saying? Fool me once,
Yeah,
shame on me.
yeah.
Fool me twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why black folks ain't getting it. They're like, no, man, no, you ain't getting that shot to me.
We ain't doing this again.
No, we ain't doing this again. We ain't doing this again. So that is the deal when we're talking about that. And we've got to understand that you cannot, you can't expect black folks just to fall in line and do what you want them to do. And that's just crazy. And also in 1947, we had something called the Nuremberg Codes. And we know what the Nuremberg Codes did. It was about experimental drugs on Jews during World War II and during the concentration camps. And we know that the National Socialism, the Aryan race of the Nazis, whatever they were, they did these experiments, these unethical human experiments on human beings through vaccinations.
Yes.
So there's a lot of questionable history out there, and that's why you have a lot of people that are not unsure. Now, again, not anti-vaccination, but I am anti you losing your liberty, and that's what this shot does. If a person does not want to take the shot, they shouldn't be forced to take the shot. So that's why we're diving into this about the vaccination and how it's affecting particularly healthcare workers that go to work in the healthcare field and they are forced to take the shot or they'll lose their job.
Yeah. It was, I think it was a few weeks ago, Houston Methodist Hospital in Texas they terminated 150 nurses. And I'm not for sure if they're all nurses or a combination of nurses and doctors, but 150 healthcare workers. Just the other day before yesterday, in North Carolina, 120 nurses were let go. Texas is talking about possibly closing the doors of 2 hospitals. They're smaller hospitals, but in low-income, impoverished areas where they're needed the most.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why? Red flags and bells and whistles should be going off where doctors and nurses across this country are refusing this experiment.
Yeah, and that worries me. You have a doctor or a nurse that's refusing this, and then you have other doctors and nurses who are saying it's good. That's where the confusion comes to. So the first thing, like I always say, you have to do your homework. You have to do your own research, and you have to make up your mind independently as a free-thinking American if this is the right thing for you. Now, we are not advocating that you do not get the shot. We are advocating that you don't give up your liberties and your freedoms as a result of this issue. Now, some of the questions that I've been getting, and a lot of it has to do with private entities, and it says one of the questions were, have private companies required vaccinations for their employees in the past? Now, yes, some private companies, require people to get a flu shot. Some require them to get a hepatitis B test or what have you. But it's not on the grounds to where if you don't get it, they're going to fire you.
Correct.
That doesn't happen. What usually happens is if a person does not want to take that flu shot, then they usually turn in that religious exemption or any type of that waiver so they don't have to take that shot. And then the employer mitigates that issue or mitigates that potential issue if the person does get sick. Now, what's going on at these hospitals? Folks are putting in their medical exemptions or their religious exemptions, and the administration to some of these hospitals are saying, well, you know what, we'll make a decision on whether or not that's a religious exemption for you or not. And that's not the place for hospital administrators. They're supposed to receive that and say this person has a religious exemption and they are not going to take the shot because of that, and therefore we can't fire them.
Or others are saying that they will no longer accept religious exemptions.
Yes. And come on. Now we're messing with the Constitution. I mean, all you got to do is look at the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and you can see that this is a clear violation of that act that was written to protect Black Americans and people of color in 1964 about actually voting rights and civil liberties and so on and so forth. We know that. Now, this is the same thing. We've got people that are losing their jobs because they refuse to take a shot. that falls under discrimination. Now, what's going to happen that I see, Dave, and some people don't even, they'll look at me like I'm crazy. Pretty soon it's going to be, we're not going to serve you because you don't have a shot.
It's happening in New York.
Exactly. You can't sit at the counter because you don't have a shot. You can't ride in this Uber because you don't have a shot. But you can ride in that Uber over there.
Or you're unvaxxed, so you can sit outside in the snow and eat your meal, but you can't come inside.
Yes. And you remember when President Biden was talking about Jim Crow 2.0? That's what he's talking about. This is all this is, ladies and gentlemen. They are doing a separate but equal kind of agenda on this. If a person does not take the shot, and they have good reasons not to take the shot, whether it is religious or personal, they should not be persecuted at their job or at an establishment that violates their civil rights. And that's what this is about. So this isn't about whether you take the shot or not. This is about, are your civil rights being violated, number one?
They are.
And then number two, are you being forced to do something that you don't want to do? And what they do,
they are.
They put that money behind it, and it forces people to have to take the shot, because you don't take the shot, you lose your job.
You know, it's kind of crazy that we're living in this day.
Yeah.
We're living in this day. You know, you got these nurses and doctors, you know, they take an oath. Not to harm.
Yeah.
And they are not comfortable with this vaccine, this experimental vaccine that's been perpetrated on society. Mm-hmm. What really, like I said, you look at these red flags. If you're an American citizen, you have to take a vaccine. Well, they're mandating you take a vaccine.
Shut up and take your vaccine.
But if you're coming across the borders, or you're flying in a plane from Afghanistan, you are not required to take a vaccine, but you can still enter our borders and live here.
Exactly.
And so, again, we're looking at a situation where, through this administration, that the American people are not first in their own country. They are put on the back burner. They're showing more compassion to those who are illegally encroaching on our borders, but they can care less about us as Americans.
Exactly. Now, if you're trying to catch up what we're talking about, we talked about that last week on the show when we talked about the open borders. We talked about the border situation, and that was the discussion that we typically talked about. Here's another question that usually comes up. Can the federal government require the vaccination? Yes, they can, to military personnel. You and I both served in the military. You know, when we went through basic training, they lined everybody up. They had, you know what I'm saying? You walk down that line, air guns on both sides, and you just poo, 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 poo. That is because you were required to, and you're working for the federal government, and that was mandated. Yes, the federal government can mandate the vaccinations to its military service members that are serving right now. Now, can it apply to civilian members of the government who work for the government or work for the military in their civilian capacity, whether they work for the Department of Defense or what have you? Yes, because that is a federal agency, and the president has overall control over that. So if you work in a civilian capacity for the Department of Defense or what have you, forestry, what have you, yes, you can be made to take that shot. Now, you can't be made to take that shot if you are the owner of a bowling alley and the president said everybody who works in this bowling alley has to get a shot. That is not constitutional, and that's something that he cannot force someone to do.
Well, he's forcing,
but he's doing
corporations.
He's forcing yeah. And what he's going to do? He's going to tighten the noose on their tax holes.
That, and also penalize. I can't remember if it was $14,000 per person that doesn't get vaccinated, or was it $1,400? $14,000 for every person that doesn't get vaccinated in your corporation. They're going to penalize you.
Yeah.
Now, just recently, there's been a long list of corporations that have finally decided to stand up and say no. Why? Because a lot of their employees says, we're not taking it, and if you force us, we're leaving. What that would do is shut down that business. And matter of fact, we've lost over 100,000 small businesses across this country just with the COVID itself. We can't continue to lose businesses. People are being harmed financially. One of the things that I would encourage you to do, you know, everybody says, well, the CDC says this, the NIH, National Institute of Health says this, or WHO, or WHO, or WHO, whatever you want to call it, World Health Organization says this. Why don't you do your own research? Because there's other competent scientists out there. Frontline doctors is one. Do your own research before you take a vaccine. Any vaccine, not just this vaccine.
Any vaccine.
But know what you're putting in your body. Because with the CDC, the NIH, and especially Dr. Fauci, it changes day by day.
You had to say that.
It changes day. No, it does.
You had to bring up.
Wait a second. You get a vaccine. You don't need a mask. But oh, wait a second. You got a vaccine, but now you need a mask. And now
leave Dr. Fauci alone, man. He confused.
Well, I think he and Biden are brothers, man, because their minds are scattered all over the place.
Biden's sleepy. What'd you say? Okay, mask now.
But he's changing. Now let me ask you this: it says that if you get this vaccine, you're going to be protected. So if you have the vaccine, Walt, and I don't. Why are you concerned with me if you're already protected?
Because it's a government overreach on the American people.
Yeah.
That's all this is. This is a power grab to take away your freedom and your liberties. And that's all this is. I mean, and I often say this, but people can see this coming from a mile away. This is an attempt on the federal government to take over our lives.
It is totalitarian government. It is tyranny. And what they're doing is trying to control every aspect of our lives. Again. You know what? You got the vaccine. I don't. You should be protected. But you know what? That wasn't good enough for Fauci.
No, it wasn't good enough.
Now you need a mask, though.
With the vaccine.
With the vaccine.
What's it going to be next? You got to walk around with a T-shirt on your head?
No, you got to put a helmet on.
Now, we're not trying to make light of this, but if you watch what has been going on with this whole thing, somebody on the outside in some of these countries that are probably looking in on us saying, what is America doing? You know, what are you doing? As a federal government at the federal level, you cannot force your will on the American people. That is why we escaped Great Britain and England.
Well, I'm going to correct you there. You can force your will on the American people if they surrender.
Surrender their will.
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yes. Yeah, I stand. Yeah, you pretty much, hosed if you do that. But we got people, like you said, they haven't done their research.
Yeah.
And when they don't do their research, they fall into this trap that the public or that the federal government just cloaks them with, and then they see no way out. Now, if we're talking about businesses going out of business because they can't afford the $14,000 fine that they'll get if they don't vaccinate their employees. Now, take that with the rising cost of just goods and services in our country, rising prices in gas, rises in food, $28 trillion in debt. We've got that infrastructure bill that 30 up to 30-something% is nothing but new Green Deal. So we can't afford for businesses to go out of businesses because the left is trying to push people to this shot. Business owners should be allowed. That'd be like them, Dave. You're a pastor. That'd be like the federal government coming into your church and saying, you cannot have people come to your church if they are not vaccinated. Think about that.
Well, the government doesn't have to do that. There's pastors that are saying that right now.
Oh, my God. What?
Seriously? There's pastors that are saying that if you're not vaccinated, that you're not going to be welcome back in the church. Well, that should be an empty church.
Well, first of all, it's God's church.
Yeah, but it should be an empty church.
It should be empty.
Yeah, don't go there then.
My goodness, I didn't know that.
No.
So are pastors requiring to see the COVID, shot card?
The green card.
The green card.
The green passport, the green passport.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Yeah. There's some churches out there that are doing that today.
See that right there. If you belong to one of these churches that are telling you that you can't go worship God because you don't have a shot, then Pastor Dave, as I'm calling you Pastor Dave right now, that's right. Don't go to that church. It should be empty. And if you are a pastor doing that, I don't want to be up there when Judgment Day comes. I don't want to be standing behind him in line. Yeah. Looking around and see who's judging because, that ain't.
Well, we have people in our church that have been vaccinated. And again, that is a personal choice. And they should not be judged. They should not be belittled. That was a personal choice between them and God.
Exactly.
I tell them that at church, We still have masks. We still have the sanitizing stations. We have all these things for those who need it. But I tell them honestly, personally for myself, for me and my family, It's not for us. It's not for us.
Yeah.
I jokingly say, I had a guy ask me the other day, Pastor Dave, are you going to get that vaccine? And I said, I already got it. Well, when did you get it? 27 years ago. His name is Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. You went there with him.
I did.
You just slapped him. You slapped him across the face with Jesus.
Yeah. I trust my Lord more than I trust the government, man.
You know what? And I often tell to people, I fear God more than I fear you.
You should.
You should. But I might move over because might be some lightning. But the deal is, that's just insane that pastors are doing that. You shouldn't be able to do that. And then here's something that I found, and it's a question. It's off of the NPR org, and National Public Radio, don't usually listen to that, but sometimes they got some pretty good stuff. And one of the questions that someone wrote to the NPR is there a legal precedent for requiring a vaccination? And there is one Supreme Court case of 1905. The case in itself was about vaccination mandates. So can the federal government, or can they say it's legal to vaccinate someone? And the court, if you go to that case, and the facts on the case is the Massachusetts law allowed cities to require residents to be vaccinated against smallpox. Okay, Cambridge adopted such an ordinance with some exceptions, and this was a person refused to comply with the requirements and was fined $5. Now we know it is $14,000. The question was, again, did the mandatory vaccination law violate Jacobson's 14th Amendment right to liberty? The conclusion of the Supreme Court was the court held that the law was a legitimate exercise of the state's policy power to protect the public health and safety of its citizens. Local boards of health determined that when mandatory vaccinations were needed, thus making this requirement neither unreasonable nor arbitrary to impose. I will tell you that the Supreme Court does not make law. No. They interpret the law. So even if the federal government, Joe Biden, comes down and says it is mandated that the American people take a shot through executive order or they do a law, okay, that is when it becomes a law. The Supreme Court doesn't do that. And I read that because some people have come to me and said, well, the Supreme Court, in this case, Jacobson versus Massachusetts in 1905, said that it is legal to do and it doesn't violate the 14th Amendment right, but it does.
It does.
It clearly violates the 14th Amendment, just like the Tuskegee experiment violated the rights of Black Americans, 400 of them, who took those shots under false pretense. I'm done. Bam. Drop the mic. Drop the mic.
Oh, man. I want to read something here. It talks about, this is 10 medical facts regarding the COVID-19 experimental vaccines. The first one is this. They are not acting like vaccines according to the common definition of a vaccine.
Talk to me.
The investigational COVID-19 vaccines were granted emergency use based upon reducing symptoms only and not based upon preventing transmission of SARS-CoV-2. Once the trials are completed, Moderna trials October 27, 2022, and Pfizer January 31st, 2023. The data will be analyzed at that time. It may be possible to know if either or both vaccine candidates reduce viral transmission. There has never been a situation where a vaccine candidate was rolled out to millions of healthy people under such a bizarre set of facts.
Wow. That's mind-blowing.
It is.
And again, the left will continue to paint a picture that everybody needs the shot, and if you don't get the shot, you're going to be sort of like a leper, and then they jump on the Biden administration bandwagon, and they do this. So I've gotten some questions. We're prior military, and we talked about, military, you have to get, it doesn't matter if it's COVID, if it's anthrax, if it's whatever. If they say your shot time comes up, you go to the TMC Troop Medical Clinic or the infirmary, and you get your shot. You get your shot. Now, there are a group of active duty service members that have filed a suit against the federal government because they don't want the shot, okay, and they are going to be forced to leave the military. Now, and I've got some people ask me, well, can the military do that? Yes, they can. Because you take an oath to follow the lawful orders. Well, is it a lawful order?
Isn't it?
See, that's probably what they're going on.
I think under the military code, it is a lawful order.
Yeah, under the military code of military code of UCMJ, taking a shot to protect the public health of the service members is a lawful order. Okay. However, okay, with that lawful order, does it create a situation to where the person's health will be at risk? And that's the question I believe that these service members are asking, and why they are taking suit against the federal government. However, the military now has said to these folks that if you don't take the shot, then you're going to be forced to leave the military.
You know, there's so much information out there, guys. I've been studying this for a whole year, listening to other doctors, other epidemiologists, other virologists, and the negative outweighs the positive in this vaccine. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm listening to different doctors around the country, not just in the United States. Like I said, CDC, NIH, and Fauci, and the World Health Organization, the WHO. Their credibility has been minimized because they change every day they have something new or something different. You can do this, now you can't do that. You should be wearing this, no, you don't have to wear this.
Yeah.
Nothing is consistent with them. It changes like you change your underwear.
Yeah.
Okay, daily,
yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Don't write in talk about you don't change your drawers, because we don't want to hear about that.
But what the point I'm trying to get to is that I really believe that you should go that extra mile and do your own research. You know, you can go on the web and you can Google certain virologists and listen to what they have to say about it. Look at the stats of those who have been affected by this, you know, have lost, have miscarriages, or what they call spontaneous abortions, or those that are having seizures, or nothing a large heart, the myocarditis of the heart. All these things are happening, but they're not giving you the numbers. Again, if you feel that you need the vaccine, take the vaccine.
Take it.
We're not saying not to take the vaccine. We're not anti-vaxxers. I've had many vaccines, especially being in the military, like Walt just said. But do your diligence and do your own personal research, and just don't listen to the media, which doesn't care about you or I, and don't listen to just the CDC, NIH, and all these other guys. Do your research. Be diligent to protect yourself, your family.
Yeah, and certainly don't listen to the federal government. Don't leave it up to them to make your decisions.
Yes,
because that's where we're getting to, where the federal government just makes our decisions. And this vaccination shot mandate deal that they are pushing down from the Biden administration is a start, and they're doing it. They're coming through the door, and they're bringing up these types of programs and so on and so forth, and it is hurting Americans now. Again, we may have some doctors that may look at this and say, well, I can't understand why they're saying it. Again, we're not anti-virus, anti-vaccination. We're anti-liberty. You know, when you are taking away somebody's liberty or freedom, that's what we are saying against. And do your homework. If you don't feel like the shot is good for you, you make that decision. You make that decision between you and your doctor, not you and your employer.
Yeah.
Your employer has nothing to do with your medical stuff. They really don't, and that's a HIPAA deal. So you make that decision. Well, first of all, you induce prayer, okay, and make that decision between you and your doctor, not you and your employer, and certainly not you and Biden.
And again, Walt just said something too, and I should have said a long time ago. You know, seek the Lord.
Yeah.
Spend time in prayer with your family, your loved ones, and all that before you make a decision.
Yep.
And at the same time, do your research. Again, you know, you may feel that this is what you need, then you take it, you know, and continue to pray for God's covering and God's protection over you. But again, don't allow Uncle Sam to dictate what you should put in your body or not put in your body. that is a personal decision before you and God and nobody else.
Exactly. Mr. Beard, where are we at on time? We got 30 seconds. That means we made it.
You did it.
We won. Did we win the prize, Mr. Beard? No, he says.
Did we win lunch?
Did we win lunch?
Okay,
Yeah,
we won lunch.
We won lunch. Hey, everybody! Again, make sure that when you go to the YouTube channel, the First American Brothers channel, excuse me, American First Brothers, you hit that subscribe down there. The more people we have subscribed to this, the more information we can get out to more people, and also on Facebook. And make sure that you go there and do that. And also, next week. After this, we'll be talking about the results of the audit. Now, we talked about the audit before a couple of weeks ago. Now we're going to be talking about the results because they
come out tomorrow.
They come out tomorrow. So, hey, we'll be talking about the results of that, and then we would like to start doing some call-ins, have some guests here, and you have to be sane. I'm just letting you. You can't.
Well, let's put it this way. Hopefully, after this, we're still on the air.
Oh, yeah.
We might have to get disguises and change our name.
Yeah. After this, Fauci might come after us.
And again, as we're closing right now, we want to be clear. We are not anti-vax.
But you know somebody's going to say we're anti-vax.
Yeah. And we said this probably 5-10 times.
And there was a reason we said that.
Anti-vaxxers, because we know they're going to come out and say that we are. Yeah. We are not. We just want you to know that you have the liberties in this country, the freedoms to decide for yourself. We are free-thinking Americans, okay?
It's going to be on Facebook.
So, hey, God bless you guys.
God bless you, and have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the American First Brothers.